on the AhhhHaaaa podcast like I told you we would be. You understand what I'm saying? And so you already know we gonna let the numbers build a little bit, you know what I mean, before we dip into the spill. But we definitely gonna dip into the spill because that's what that thing is about. You know what I mean? Using the platform to be able to have your voice to be heard in a way where, you know, it piques the attention of those who might be in the circumference of where you speak. You know what I mean? And where you speak could be right now, you see what I'm saying? But as it echoes, it can go further. You understand what I mean? Getting up here, you know, squabbling about, you know, this and that, and who this and who that, and what you did and what you didn't do. We not here for that. You know what I mean? Too many things going on inside our community as a whole. And when I say our community, I don't only mean the black community because I'm black. I mean our community, the world community. You understand what I mean? Because globalization is real. Globalization is real. You know what I mean? And in order to globalize, you got to be able to have flexibility. You got to have, you know, the foresight to be able to know that you got to wear many different faces in many different places in order to reach the people who you need to reach in order to keep things under your control. Because basically that's what all this is about. This is about control, y'all. You know what I mean? And we really can't really like do nothing against it because we already seen in the past, you know, the groups that try to rise up, you know, and go against the administration and go against the powers that be. We already know what that entails. You understand what I'm saying? But that's not what we're looking for, especially inside of democracy where we have seen when people come out in numbers to demand a change in any regard, it does happen. You know what I mean? We were just looking at the mayoral race that just happened, you know, last week Monday, I believe it is, out here in South Brooklyn, New York. And we seen how Mom Donnie shocked the world. You know what I mean? Mom Donnie put on. You know, people can feel whatever they do about the brother, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, he showed you how grassroots politics is still effective in the 21st century. You know what I mean? He came out of nowhere, so to speak, the same way Barack Obama did. I mean, truthfully, right? Because Barack Obama wasn't no, you know, he wasn't no stalwart or, you know, nobody to be reckoned with at the time when he came out of nowhere. He did exactly what I said, came out of nowhere. You know, and we seen that with Mom Donnie. You see what I'm saying? And so my approach to the situation is never in revolt, right? Because when you put forth the revolt, you bring about an energy that brings a consequence that's detrimental to what you're trying to accomplish. You see what I'm saying? But nevertheless, man, when you dealt the hand in at this seat and at this game, then, you know, it's quite natural that you're going to play accordingly, right? And so this is all I'm saying. Like, you know, my endeavor is to become educated, right? And to then be able to impart what I'm able to ingest to those who are interested. You see what I'm saying? Because like I said, man, you know, the time in which we live, man, you know, a lot is going on. And so it's imperative, man, that we, you know, remain conscious, you know, to what's going on. So when we walk out the door into our, you know, extended everyday lives, we have, you know, a sense of navigation from the information that's coming in. You know what I mean? Let me see what this say. No question. But yeah, though, we gonna let the numbers swell, you know, inshallah. And we gonna sit here and we gonna, you know, we gonna rap about it, so to speak, you know. And I welcome all energies and, you know, all ideas, you know, because don't no one person have a monopoly on knowledge. No more than one person has a monopoly on information. You understand what I'm talking about? So I welcome all ideas, you understand, saying all insights, all of that, you know. And like I said, on this square, we gonna be respectful. We not gonna, you know, we not gonna use the race card. We ain't gonna use the gender card, although we will be talking to race and gender. Because race and gender are constants. Race and gender, you know, hold standing in our society. So yes, we will be talking to it and about it, but using it as a manipulation or using it as a tool in order to, garner attention or to seek sympathy or empathy. We not doing that here. We not doing that here. You know what I mean? Because in my view, which is on my platform, I don't see gender in that regard no more than do I see race in that regard. Of course, race is a reality inside our reality, and no question. Race is as American as apple pie, right? Race is for real. You understand what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, we don't want to use those as excuses. We don't want to use those to justify points. You know what I mean? We want to be able to look at a situation for what it is, call it out for what it is, and then address it. Not even so much to judge it as it is to address it. Because to address it only establishes that we are aware. You see what I'm saying? And you ain't gonna tell me that there's something wrong with me having the knowledge before I go out my door as to what's going on outside of my community is a breach of anything in this society. Because to be aware is to be educated, and to be educated is to be aware. You see what I'm saying? And so we want to exercise, that God-given ability that we all have to some extent or to a certain degree. You see what I'm saying? Before we make choices in our lives, or in our lives. Before we make them choices, we want to be able to make sure that we're exercising the appropriate, thinking structure to whatever it is, the situation that we are speaking to, whatever it is, the situation we're trying to address. We want to make sure that we are in the right way of thinking. And in being in the right way of thinking is being able to educate yourself appropriately so that this way your approach is, is on an even keel with it. You understand what I'm saying? And so that's what we doing here today, We're gonna let it swell, you know what I'm saying? If it don't, we still gonna go because the show got to go forward. You understand what I'm saying? The show will go on. It must go on. And I'm gonna leave that right there. But nevertheless, man, the situation with Snap, that situation is serious right now, man. To look on social media, man, and see how people are, you understand what I'm saying? Being hard-hearted toward one another is just crazy to me. You understand saying cold-blooded crazy to me. You understand what I'm talking about? And my whole thing in that regard is, if we could figure out a way where we can make people understand that exercising your hold on, take that off. Exercising your right. Y'all know this is my first time doing this joint, so I'm trying to be skillful with it. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, hold on. But at the end of the day, we still want to make sure that, you understand what I'm saying, the area or the communities or whatever, because I don't like to restrict myself to boroughs or cities or whatever. But any place in this world, man, you want to make sure that you're safe and you want to make sure your family is safe. You understand saying popping shit just for the sake of it? That's not what this is about. You understand saying? I stay away from conversation like that. Because if I can't gain from it, then what am I even doing near it? What am I even doing in it? You understand what I'm saying? So I aspire each and every time I pull up on this square, where it's at and where I envision it to become, is to always be able to not only entertain, but to educate. You understand what I'm saying? Because again, I'm going to continue to reiterate this. This is about education. This is about coming into a beacon of light from where you perceive it not. You understand what I'm saying? And being able to identify with the topics that are of discussion. We come from many different stripes in life, from many different walks in life. You see what I'm saying? But it's still cardinal principles, cardinal and innate things that we still identify with commonly as human beings. It doesn't matter about the restrictions that come with race, gender, class, none of that. This is solely about, the humanity of humanity when we speak to that. Yes, it might be job talking. Yeah, the lexicon that might be used might be, a one that you might have been distant from, one that you're not even, familiar with. You see what I'm saying? But don't allow those things to become prejudices. You know, don't allow those things to say, nah, you know, I'm gonna stay away from that because they ain't only, you know, they only, We don't want to do that. You understand what I'm saying? Because when you shun information, you see what I'm saying? There ain't no way in the world you're gonna be able to find enlightenment. You understand what I'm saying? And so my whole thing in a nutshell, again, is being able to, you know, identify with a situation and be able to address it accordingly. You understand what I mean? You know, just becoming prejudiced about a situation, you know, shooting out the mouth or flying off the handle to see the most incendiary or hurtful things to people to get your point across. Nah, we don't got to do that like that. I mean, those are ways and actions of an idiot. Those are ways and actions of, you know, those who are befogged in the mind. But those who are sharp-headed and really have something to say, they exercise patience. You understand what I'm saying? They exercise different points of views before they go diving in off the deep end. And we don't want to do that here. You know what I mean? We want to make sure that everybody's opinion counts. You see what I'm saying? We want to make sure everybody, you know, have something to say. Even if we disagree with each other, I'm fine with that. Because it takes many different colors in the rainbow to make it beautiful. We all ain't going to agree. I don't even trust people like that who always agree with me. To me, that's bullshit. You know, excuse my French if I can't do that yet, but to me, that's BS. You understand what I'm saying? I like people who disagree with me because inside that, you know, antagonistic conflict of views, you know, wisdom might prevail. You know, we don't never, ever, 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 ever shun the messenger that comes with the joke, as long as we're able to be able to benefit from the message. Now, if it's a job turkey, we're not with that. This ain't about that. Not here on this AhhhHaaaa square. The job turkey stuff, we ain't with it. Yeah, we gonna entertain whatever as it come. But the job turkeyness, I'm not even interested in that. You know, time is money. And I ain't got time nor money to waste on the nonsense. You understand what I'm saying? But like I was saying, you know, I'm trying to wait for it to swell before I, you know, get into the spill. You see what I'm saying? Because what I got to talk about, I definitely, you know, believe that it's, you know, pertinent for the black community to be able to, you know, get in tune with it as well. Because even though we don't bear the face of the SNAP benefits in this society, you know, per capita, certain cities and certain communities we do. But by and large, nationwide, per capita, we don't. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't want people to continue to look into, you know, having received or still, you know, have to receive those benefits in a way as if it stigmatizes you. You know, a stigma for what? Because the people came to your aid? A stigmatized for what? Because what you contribute toward is now coming back to help you? Nah, I mean, like, we gotta get away from that. I understand all that stuff about being bougie, the black bougie, and all this sort of stuff like that. I understand that. Do I identify with it? No. Do I relate to it? No. Right? But I definitely understand it. You know, it's sort of like the caste system. Like, we want to separate ourselves off into different categories so that we can have the complement of being better than the other. I understand that. You understand what I'm saying? Because coming from what I come from, you understand the concept of crab in the barrel. You know, we don't want nobody else to get on top, so we gonna pull it back down. I understand that. You understand what I'm saying? But that stinking way of thinking, you know, that warped mentality in the way of snatching somebody else down so you can shoot up is what's keeping us back. That and a bunch of other things. You understand what I'm saying? But in order for you to become conscious of anything what I'm talking about or anything that's happening in reality, you know, that's an impediment to you in any way, it starts with education. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, let your emotions move you to the way where you want to come up here and say something crazy or whatever the case may be. Let your emotions move you in that way. Because there's many different roads that we might take in order to get upon the road that we must take. You understand what I'm saying? So if that's something that you want to, you know, engage in, and it brings you over here in a way where you know, find a way to become tempered so that you could be able to receive information, then right here is where you need to be, because I'm going to welcome all of that. Again, I don't only trust, I loathe those who only agree with me. I need disagreement in order for me to become greater. Why? Because it's only through many different point of views that you get a panoramic view of what the situation on the topic is really about. You understand what I'm saying? But again, like I said, because of the SNAP situation, you know, it's bothering our community. It's bothering our community in a way where you got people sitting at home right now not knowing where the next meal gonna come from, right? And then we have those among us who are well off. You know, we done made some moves. We done learned from the past. We done learned from history. You know, we come from places and people where, you know, we are in a position to always be able to, you know, at least feed ourselves, right? We don't use that station in life or those privileges or those blessings to look down and castigate one another. We don't do that shit, right? We don't, because that ain't about nothing, right? That's keeping us right where we are. In a predicament where we gotta be, you know, all topsy-turvy about where the next meal gonna come from, because opportunities aren't aplenty in the communities where we live, right? I mean, these are serious things and serious times that are going on right now. You know, again, you know, I'm on that 5th floor, man. You know, Allah spared me, Allah graced me. So I had enough life. I seen enough life, you know, in order for me to be able to say, wow, I remember a time when if something like this would have occurred, it would have been pandemonium outside of them streets. You understand what I'm saying? I'm glad it's not, you know, capitalism is different in our society, you know. It's practiced in a different way. Like, this country is in dead smack in a few wars, but we don't feel it over here in our regular and everyday life, because capitalism has this country, you know, wrapped around in a way, you understand what I'm saying, where we are still able to enjoy benefits, you know, that people in other places in the world can't even fathom, can't even think about. You understand what I'm saying? But because we live in this society, this capitalist society, even in, you know, trying times, or even in the midst of a struggle, if you will, because you got people outside struggling, man. You got people outside struggling, man. You understand what I'm saying? But we still don't really feel the gravity, right? Or the seriousness of what those type of conditions entail. You understand? And I'm hoping that we don't have to get to that. You understand what I'm saying? Because for what? For what? You understand what I'm saying? You know, I voted for the dude Trump. And I say that, you know, with no regret, right? I say that with no regret. I don't say it with aplomb, because I can't gloat about it. He doing sucker shit, right? But the reason why the majority of black men, but I'm speaking for myself, but after hearing, you know, a chorus of others, Kamala Harris just wasn't, you know, solidified enough in our point of view to go, all right, here, we gonna vote for the sister. You know, it ain't had nothing to do with gender or none of that. You understand? But me, truthfully, because I understand how slimy and dirty the game of politics is, I really don't even like seeing, you know, black people sitting inside those places, man. Because the only thing, you know, we are up next to do when we are, you know, given that opportunity, is to show people or show the world that we could be just like those who we say got it wrong. You know, when Obama came in, you know, people sing his praises, but Obama was really a lame duck for 4 years in his presidency. Like, he tapped to a certain beat in order to keep certain, you know, types of attentions and, you know, energies away from him. And I get it. As a black man, I get it, especially in the society in which we live. I get it. We living in a society where in opposition, these dudes send something, knock you down. Just because he got a different point of view of you. Charlie Kirk, they tried to get at Trump on his, you know, presidential campaign, so I understand. Nevertheless, the duty of those who are conscious should always be to go back to those who are less conscious, right? And to hit them, to let them know what this thing is about. You understand what I'm saying? So this way you don't got your people, your family, so to speak, jumping off the deep end, half cocked, no parachute. They don't even know what's going on. You see what I'm saying? Because they're not educated. You see what I'm saying? In a way that will keep them or make them aware. Right? And that's the problem that we have in our community, man. But like I was saying, you know, the cocksucker was wrong. Trump was dead ass wrong for playing chicken with the federal government's purse, right? Against the Democratic Party, right? While in full understanding of what the consequences would be if the Democrats don't play along with him. So he was definitely dead wrong. Because if we looking at it for what it is, right? He's only, you know, punishing the people via the SNAP benefits and via the federal employees' paychecks. Them people not even on SNAP. Them dudes ain't even getting a paycheck. The federal employees, TSA and on. So this dude is in a way punishing the working class, right? And the stay-at-home poor, or you understand what I'm saying, the functionable poor, if you will, right? He are punishing these people in order to get the Democrats to bend the knee and kiss the ring, right? Nah, homie, that's not right. Because first and foremost, any money that the federal government has in its possession belongs to the people. It belongs to the people. Where do or can the federal government get money if it don't come from the people? What, they privatize? They got corporations and businesses and stuff and shareholders in it? Let us know so that we can partake in the capitalism of that as well. Even though we know they have private prisons and things like that, we're not talking about that just yet, right? But we talking about what's going on right now. We talking about what's going on right now. Donald Trump and the Republican Party is playing chicken with the federal government's purse, right? In tow against the Democrats saying, listen, y'all don't bend the knee, and if y'all don't cry uncle, we gonna make the majority of your voters suffer, right? Because the majority of SNAP people who benefit from SNAP are rural right communities, and the majority of people in rural right communities, whether you believe it or not, are not Republican, right? Because the face of SNAP really in our society, whether y'all realize it or not or knew it or not, is not the face of a black woman and her children. No, it's not. It's rather the face of a Caucasian woman with her children, because they're the majority in this country. You understand what I'm saying? Nevertheless, you know, not restricting it to gender, race, or anything like that, but calling the spade as we see it a spade. Both sides in Congress are responsible for the condition of the SNAP benefit programs and the federal employees not being able to get paid. Both sides. Because like I said, Trump had no right to be playing chicken with the Democratic Party, while with the federal person told to let them know that if you don't bend the knee, your supporters and voters will feel the sting of the lash. He was dead wrong for that. He don't get a pass for that at all. At all. Right? Nevertheless, there are two sides to Congress. Right? Two. And so when you have, you know, the Democratic leaders, so to speak, like Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer or the AOC girl, when you have these types of, you know, mindsets and voices in position, understanding and knowing the opposition or the opponent that they are going up against, which is Donald Trump, they already know this joke is the 8-year-old king. He's Joffrey from the Game of Thrones, if you will. I mean, let's be for real. So they already know what type of joker they dealing with, right? How dare they, right? In the faces that they bear, on the mind states that they say they stand in and come from, how dare they engage him on his terms in that particular way? Because by them engaging him in that idiot shit, right? Because this is what it's all about, bending the knee. What is the bending knee over? Obamacare, right? The Republicans been threatening Democrats for years that when they get into position, they was going to undo and overhaul Obamacare. We all knew that, those of us who've been paying attention to what's been going on. Both sides do that. When the Democrats get in, they flip all the Republican stuff, bring their stuff back in. When the Republicans get in, they throw all that Democratic stuff, bring their stuff in. Those who know already know what been going on. You understand what I'm saying? So when Trump came playing this game of chicken with them, they already know they dealing with an idiot. Like, let's take this to real life, right? You know a dude in your community who's a straight idiot. He got a new car. You been doing your thing. And he come out of nowhere, yo, let's play chicken. You're not playing chicken with that fool. Because you already know he an idiot. Right? You're going to be like, all right, come on. Let him go. Yeah, boy. Let him go at any means. Appease him at any means. And when I say appease him at any means, in this context, it means that if the Democrats had to go in and say, yo, you know what? Cool, let's go back and sit down at the table and talk about this Obamacare thing because we got to keep this government open. You understand? Saying none of them took that approach. Not AOC, not Chuck Schumer, not Hakeem Jeffries, not none of them dudes who were supposed to be the leaders in the Democratic Party today. Right? I seen you all came out in droves to put the dude Mamdani in, right? Not even him. You see what I'm saying? I mean, we heard where he needed to stay in order to secure the place where he wanted to be. We understood that. You understand what I'm saying? But on this topic right here, we ain't hear this dude come out and say anything. If we did, we hear him directing the trumpets blast toward Donald Trump. Yo, Trump did this, Trump did that. That's how come Kamala Harris lost the election, sad to say. Because they kept putting everything on Trump instead of offering the people ideas that were bigger than Trump. You understand? Saying offering people, points of views that, would have dwarfed Trump. You understand? Saying, but they did not do that. They did what they continue to do right now to this day, the blame game. Oh, it's the Republicans. Donald Trump, he wants to be the king, and if you don't kiss the ring, then, he's liable to do anything. Y'all knew that. Y'all knew that. And my regard to that is this. We dealing with a person who was always and openly against the federal government. Y'all done let the wolf in the hen house. Not the fox. The fox a little bit more sly. The Joker was the wolf. He told the world from day one what he was going to do when he get back in office. You see what I'm saying? So when you don't let the Joker, right, into the trick bag, or like I said, you don't let the wolf into the hen house, and he get to start tearing shit up, like you the idiot for being shocked. Because we already know what the nature of this beast is about. Right? Trump openly and always hated the federal government. So now that he's in office, what you think he gonna do? Respect the federal government? How? He trying to overhaul that shit, do what he want with that. Because he don't respect it. He want to get up in there and kill in front of every place where he can light a fire, cover it up, put it on the low, so when that shit ignites, what happened? He want to hold Dennis to menace the federal government because he don't respect it. And so if we here as lay people understand that, how those who we push forward in leadership and representation to us, how dare they get there and drop the ball? Because that's exactly what they did. We listened to the sister Jasmine Crockett out of Texas and all that. And for all that bluster she give up, man, what has she done? Like, what can she come to the community and go, yo, they know I don't play your head. This is what I did. I ain't talking about her little personal juice she might have out there in Texas somewhere, with the municipality in her area or the police and all that stuff. They know not to play with her because she the congresswoman. We ain't talking about that. Because she's speaking about politics that relate to the people all over this country. You understand what I'm saying? And so I'm saying, you know, instead of me just saying, yo, she ain't this, she ain't that, I'm asking you straight up and down, where is it? Like, what are her works? I hear what she's saying, right? But I don't see what she's saying. You know? 2 weeks ago nearly, Congress, well, whenever this debacle began, maybe last Friday, Congress, that Friday, received paychecks, man, from the federal government. So my question is, how did the federal government have money to pay Congress their paychecks that comes from the coffers of the federal government, which are enriched by the money, the taxes and stuff from the people? How was Congress permitted to receive paychecks, right? That Friday, last Friday, but federal employees, TSA workers, and people who are SNAP beneficiaries, they all had to take a back seat when all that money come out the same pot. So that's like, you know, a person who we all elect as being our leader, and he invite us all to the table. And he say to us, well, I got a meal about to come out here, but everybody that's at this table ain't gonna be able to get a plate. You know, some of y'all ain't gonna even be able to nothing. And so now, as a person at the table, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to say? You supposed to just accept that? Because this is a dude that you, along with others, gave consent to be in leadership for you. This is the same dude who, when you work and come back and do what you gotta do and you pay your taxes, you going up to him and you going, yo, here, hold this. Because this for all of us. And then now a crisis come about. He invites you to the table and then tell you in your face, along with others, that you might not be able to get a piece of this slice. Because for whatever reason, but this one can and that one can as well. Because that's exactly what happened, or what was shown to the people when Congress collected a check last Friday. I ain't hear nobody in Congress say, yo, I don't want this check until the people get their benefits. I ain't hear nobody in Congress say that, right? On either side, I ain't hear the Republicans say it and I ain't hear the Democrats say it. And I put both sides of the party out there because you have some Republicans now that are openly speaking out against what's going on with the SNAP benefits debacle. You know, they're really letting Trump have it, and I commend them for that. You understand what I'm saying? But neither side said, yo, I don't want this check until the people get their benefits. I don't want this check until the federal employees get their paycheck. I don't want this check until TSA get their checks. Because if that check came out of the same pot, but if only, and they were allowed to receive it, then they just as bad as the motherfucker who wrote it for them to cash it. Just as motherfucking bad. Shit, they might be worse if you ask me, because it harkens back to what I was saying in the beginning. Schumer and them know how Donald Trump is. They know he's Joffrey from the Game of Thrones. And so with that foresight, they have an added sense of responsibility to what they know. Because they know. They know they dealing with a joker. Right? So how you gonna allow the joker to get you to walk into his terrain, to get you to play his game? That's exactly what they did. And the people should have something to say, because it's the people who sent Schumer, AOC, and Jeffries and all those dudes to Washington to represent for us. Right? And so when they don't, what we supposed to do? Just play dumb about it? But all of us are not dumb, especially about it. You got some of us that are really hip to what's going on. You see what I'm saying? And so what's the crime in that? We educated ones come back to the pack and go, yo, man, this type of shit they got going on out here. So now we the wrong ones? The only thing we doing is saying, I caught you, motherfucker, you busted. You see what I'm saying? Playing the blame game while the people in the society suffering with hunger pains. That ain't cool, man. And if nobody else talking about it, guess what? I am. Right? Because then it ties back into what I was sharing earlier, education, man. When you hip to it, man, you can see it. And when you see it, you gonna call it out. That's what I'm gonna do, especially when it's affecting my people, man. You understand what I'm saying? We sat here, man, you know, this morning and watched the first black lady, man, that they put on the Supreme Court, man. You know, Ketanji Jackson Brown. You know, the first black woman up there. Oh, the first black woman. Barack, Barack. Yo, the first black woman, man. This heifer up here, yeah, I call her. This heifer up here agreeing with Trump to give him more time so he could finger fucking stroke the people, man. As if she don't come from those benefits. In her time, they really had this big stigma on the benefit. It was called welfare. So she probably one of those who grew up hating welfare, imitation of life stories, right? Hating welfare. Now she in position, she gonna do everything she can to dismantle it, right? So that she can reverse the stigma and be the first one to say, I told you, all black people wasn't on welfare. When in reality, this is not even about her. This is about 42 million people who missed out on their SNAP benefits this week, or last week, or whenever it came out, last week to this week, right? And still being finger fucked with news stories, right? They posting do shit on their applications with HRA, where a person go check their balance. They posting the shit, and when the person go into the store with their benefit card, the shit is saying 0. Like, how cruel is that? And again, this is with the money that the people contributed to the pot. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. Right? You just coming out your pocket, giving your money to a dude who you and your friends and your family agreed to say, look, we're going to let them handle the money because what they telling us seems and sounds to be right. Right? You just going to let them just do anything they want with your money. Look you in your face, tell you any old type of thing happen with your money. And you supposed to just jack that. Because to make noise makes you a troublemaker. What are they for robbing you? What the fuck are they for robbing you? Right? A dude in the street put his hand in your pocket, you gonna scream, ah, he robbing me. And you gonna expect some results? Police come and lock his ass up, he catch a case. What's the difference when the federal government do it? Well, it's okay because they the feds. How? The feds become who we say they supposed to be because it's by our vote that they sit in those places. Right? But getting up here on social media, you know, and dogging each other out like they have, what's the name of the girl last week? The toast lady. You know, she's sitting up here eating toast, telling people about how, you know, difficult it's going to be for them for Thanksgiving. That's not what we do in a time of crisis like that. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, that's demonic shit. That's idiot shit. You know, that's the type of shit that you shouldn't want to be exposing your kids to or teaching your kids about. Right? Because the only thing that do is just gonna make our predicament more worse than what it already is. Now we creating cruel people intentionally. Right? Your recourse in a crisis like this is ridicule. You know, people getting on social media up here talking about what they cooking for Sunday. Oh, this Sunday dinner. Oh, this what we having tonight. And what about those that are reading that, man? Your friends. Your social media friends. Looking at that don't know where their next meal coming from tonight. You know, and you call yourself a friend? You know, a sadist is what you are. Only those who are sadistic can find joy in other people's misery. So a sadist is what you are. Shouldn't nobody be glorifying you because you ain't to glorify. The black bougie have. Explain to me. Because the bourgeoisie, in any definition that I read about or studied the bourgeoisie in, they were always cowards, right? And so now we in a town, we brag about being cowards. I ain't surprised. Look how people brag about being petty, you know? And it harkens back to the maxim that say, a people get the leadership that they deserve. And so I say that to say this. For everything that Donald Trump is, it's what the society is as well. For every sucker, creep, con man, crook, criminal that Donald Trump is, so the fuck is America. Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. You got criminals in power talking about making laws for other kinds of criminals. You got the FBI dude openly, like going back and forth with Congress. And I say with Congress because remember, Congress is in representation of the people. So you got the FBI agent who is a public servant by origin and definition, arguing with the people he's supposed to be working for. And we think that's gangster? That shit is crazy. Not only is it crazy, look at the consequence that it's having on the people, man. You know, we understand the saying that say shit rolls downhill. But come on, man. With our own money? Like, how you gonna withhold my own money? Do that shit. If you were just looking out, if they were just looking out for us, that's different. Because now they would have the right. Be like, yo, this is my shit. Like, I don't gotta give you nothing. This is mine. But that is not theirs. That is ours. And how can those that we send to represent for us then turn back around to us with our money in their hand and say, we can't give you none today? And then those who come out and speak vehemently toward it and about it, and those who are concerned the most about it because they know people, it might be the people themselves who are dependent upon it. They come out and say something and you guys label them as the bad guys? How? Well, if you can't explain how, it only justifies what I say. The people get the leadership that they deserve, man. We got Trump because this culture is Trump. Think about it. You don't have to, though. You understand what I'm saying? But, I mean, it's real. You know? That's messed up, man. Especially to those who are working people, man. Working people is just like I was saying last week, right? With the tax refund. You know, we give taxes out of all of our checks. Every one of our tax checks we get, they tax. And it has become so normal to us that that's just the way it goes. Right? And then now when April comes along, you know, we know that if we can pay them taxes and, you know what I mean, that, you know, they ain't need all that, so that decent refund coming back. We wait in anticipation for that, dude. Does that mean we are waiting on our welfare checks? Because I'm confused. You know, if we are contributing toward a fund, or we're contributing toward a subsidy, or we're contributing toward a cause, or we're contributing toward, you know, a constitution in any kind of way, there should always be a rebate. And that rebate purpose should always to serve as an incentive, right? To get the constituency or the layman or the people to want to come voluntarily, right? Passionately to contribute toward those causes. See? With expectation, without doubt that they will receive a refund or a rebate in return, right? That's the incentive. Put in so you can get out, right? That's what the banks say. Put this in and we give you some interest on top of that, right? And so what's the problem, right? Working people pay a tax dividend toward a subsidy that's in place to benefit the people with the food coupon, right? Why shouldn't working people receive a refund in that? And because it's being contributed toward a food subsidy, why shouldn't working people receive the coupon as a food subsidy? Huh? Got people out here believing that because they make too much, they shouldn't be entitled to a refund. Yet you taxing their ass no matter how much they make. That don't even make sense. You know, we can sit and play the blame game all we want, but I'm going to lay it out to you as it is. The Democrats easily could have told Trump, yo, look, man, hey, all right, keep the government open. We're going to sit down and talk about this Obama thing, right? Let the people get, because this is a chess game, a chess match or whatever, gladiators with some gangster shit. They could have easily did that. Kept the government open, let the people get their benefit, and still been able to will and deal with this joker because they know they're dealing with one. You know, since Obamacare was put in place, he been screaming about dismantling it. He here now. That's on the Democratic Party for not being prepared enough to have been able to pull another trick out of their trick bag to use against this joker. No, but instead they chose to allow him to play chicken with the people, man. You know, they went home that last Friday with their paycheck. You did not get your benefit that Friday, or that Saturday, or that Monday. And all that money is in the same coffer. All that money is in the same pot. They got theirs. The people didn't get ours, man. And to find a way to ameliorate that stain, or to put a Band-Aid on that gunshot wound, we find and take ridicule against one another because of it, man. Oh, you on welfare. Oh, you get your SNAP benefits today. Oh, I'm cooking turkey and macaroni and cheese and I mean, like, what the fuck is this about? You know, that blow that they initiated hit you so motherfucking low that you still staggering from it? You don't know who you are or where you come from? Because that's all we see, man. A motherfucker who played bully to all of us, to both of us, to each and every last one of us. And the only way we can find recourse is taking out that frustration on one another. Yo, come on, man. That shit don't got to be like that. Like I said, you gotta get some education. You want to fight? Fight from here. Right? If it's chess, fight from here. Right? Because we already know they got all them other tactics that trick you out your spot shit and all that old crazy shit and pulling you over, police or Venvu tactics and shit. We already know it's wild out here, y'all. So you definitely got to protect your neck. But at least in that first, arm yourself with education, man. So this way you ain't flying off the handle half-cocked. You ain't taking a leap off the roof with no parachute. You understand saying? The blame game is a game that has no ending. You know, people can blame each other till kingdom come. Or like they say, till the cows come home. You understand what I'm saying? Nevertheless, and at the end of the day, the people has an innate responsibility. I say innate because it deals with our moral compass. It deals with that spirit in us that we call a conscience. You understand saying? The people have, you know, an innate responsibility to become educated, right? Because with that education, man, it unblurs the line. You know, we sitting here finding ridicule with one another because of what the politicians in Congress are doing and finding a justifiable way to let them up off the handle. Oh, I make too much money to get public assistance. That's just, you sound like an idiot saying that. You do not make too much money that they don't tax your ass. So if they taxing you, where is the refund? Where? Where? These people were talking about an emergency contingency fund. Do you know what that really means in layman terms? That means they got extra. Extra, 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 extra. They just got so much extra bread sitting on the side in escrow that they can make up names and categories to call that shit a contingency fund. Nah, that extra, give it back to the people who gave it to you in the first place. Because until you do, what are we doing? Come on, man. That don't make no sense, man. You know what I'm talking about? Especially, finding ways to ridicule one another and that. That just don't make no sense to me, man. If anything, people should be out in droves, man. You know what I mean? Demanding accountability from their Congress people. Demanding accountability, man. Yo, what the hell is going on? Because the last time I checked, I was paying my taxes. And if I was paying my taxes, where are my benefits? And say that with aplomb. There should be no stigma or shame in that. Why? That money belongs to the people. You kidding me? That's like you contributing toward a Thanksgiving meal at your aunt crib. And some relatives come over there that you don't really, cotton to, you don't agree with. And because they sitting at the table stuffing their faces, you so, I don't need money, I don't even shit up. Well, that's your shit. You bought that. If anything, tell them, you gangster, tell them get their ass up from the table because they not welcome to it. You hear me? Congress did none of that, man. For all that stuff Jennifer Crockett talk about, for all that AOC, like she in the streets of the South Bronx, yo, we for the people. Ain't none of them get them paychecks back. They all accepted their paychecks while the people who were waiting on paychecks and waiting on SNAP benefits got thumbs down to them. Thumb the fuck down. No, we ain't got nothing for you over here. But we gonna get to these ones over here. That's like being in your crib and everybody in the crib getting allowance and that shit coming around and you don't get, but you ain't gonna say nothing to your pops, your mom, like, yo, fuck I do. Where mine at? Everybody else got a piece. Where's mine? And it's sad because it's the people that we sit in representation of us. Deep like me. Like, I couldn't have been that would have been in the square of your head. Now, I don't want that. Why? Because everybody else is supposed to get some too. I stayed getting in trouble like that in the can. You know how many times we went on hunger strikes? They don't want to get this dude his tray, so none of us don't want our tray. They come around and snatch this dude, mishandling him, deal. We're going to deal with it accordingly. And we're going to deal with it as, a group of people coming together saying, yo, man, we holding you accountable to what you promised us. You promised us that. Those benefits is a long-standing promise in this society we live in this capitalist world we live in. Take the people who will benefit from SNAP aside and let's speak to the ones who contribute towards SNAP. Me and everybody I know, we paying taxes. Talk to us about it. Because I know collectively we gonna say, nah, get that to the people, man. Get that to the people. Because that's what it's for. I had a little extra this time on my check. Gave y'all $14 to put to the side. You got 300 million people, man. Out of that, we're going to save a rough 130 million people of working people, all giving you taxes to put to the side for the people. And you dealing with that money any old kind of way you want? Not allowing yourselves to be held accountable to the people? And we supposed to just jack that. Nah, homie, we're not doing that over here. We're not doing that over here, man. Long as I breathe, homie, I'm going to always make sure I come with some information to impart to those who are interested so that they can become educated and then enlightened by it, man. That's my duty, man. Why is it my duty? Because the law gave me this gift, huh? I don't care what you don't know about. I know what I know about. Playing the blame game, like I said, while the people sit out here and suffer in hunger pains is a coward move. And I'm directing that shot at both sides of the divide. You understand what I'm saying? You feeling me, man, you know what I mean, you jacking what I'm saying, then support what I'm saying. You know, get up and let your voice be heard. Go hold your congressman and your congresswoman accountable. Right? If you don't do that, please, at least in the bare minimum, stay off of social media trying to bash each other for being beneficiaries to a fund that was created by the people for the people. You know, we see the people out here in these food pantries. They out here in droves too. We rolled by one in Queens yesterday. I'm talking about like never before. But there should be no shame in that. Why? Because the money that it took to put that produce in action for it to come back to produce came from the people. The labor was put in by the people. Right? And so those who should be enjoying it should be the people. You know, let's get out of this fake, you know, bougie way of thinking, man. Because that shit ain't doing nothing for none of us. For all of us who come from, you know, humble beginnings and now we in positions, we and you know better. A blessing today, man, you be cursed tomorrow. You see? And let's start holding these Congress people that we send to office accountable when they mess up, man. You understand what I'm saying? Let's stop giving them the past year. Jasmine Crockett look all razzle-dazzle and she from the hood and she know what's wild out here and what's popping. She know all of that. But she ain't getting nothing done for the people. Same thing with AOC. Oh, South Bronx. So she could talk all of that. They starving out there right now in the South Bronx, those who were expecting their benefits to come but didn't receive them. You got people out here, man, with 5, 6 kids, man, growing kids. They got to eat on a daily because it's a natural order of life. And they sitting up here trying to find ways to justify why those type of people and children shouldn't have it. Talking about, oh, the mother only using the money to get her nails done and to get her hair did. Yo, listen, man, we going to stop that. Yo, they selling their benefits. We know people sell their benefits. We know that. But that does not speak to the vast majority of those who are able to benefit from those benefits. So we got to stop that. You understand what I'm saying? We have to become more involved, man, when it comes to these grassroots politics and as it relates to the people, man. Yeah, we could get up here and talk job shit all day long. But when it's time to talk about things that are substantive or something that's going on right now in the time and it's having an impact and effect on us in an adverse way, then these are the topics and the things we need to be paying attention to and talking about. Well, I'm going to leave it right there. You already know, man, we came out here, man, you know, to discuss some topics, man, some issues that I think are pertinent, relevant to the black community as the black community exists today. You know, going forward, man, I'm looking for the participation, I'm looking for the interest, and I'm looking for the engagement. Because I know this beyond a shadow of a doubt that I'm not the only one who feels in this way or, constituted with these types of sentiments. I know for a fact it's a bunch more people out there who feel as I do and can identify and relate to what I'm talking about, but just don't know what to say or how to say it. And if you are that type of person, your place to be is right here on this AhhhHaaaa podcast with me, because once we get it up, I'm going to be speaking not only to you, but for you. You understand what I'm talking about? Because that's what we need. We need more people who can come with this type of forethought, this type of educated disposition, this type of verbiage to be able to get those antagonizing and frustrating feelings that we have inside out, so that this way the people can understand what it's really about. Yo, with that, I'm going to leave you right there. Remember, we on YouTube, and I got the podcast going, so whatever here comes from me, comes from me. YouTube don't write or produce. I really just like the freestyle. So you already see what it is. YouTube don't write or produce for me in any kind of way. All of these thoughts and opinions come from me, myself, and now. You feeling it? You smash that like button. You jacking the content, subscribe to the channel. And I'm going to leave it right there. AhhhHaaaa, thanks for joining me. Until